historian by the name of Joseph Campbell. And maybe some of you have read him, maybe some of you have not. But Joseph Campbell, in reviewing his life in one of his books, looked to certain events in his life that maybe had some marking or distinction or directed his life in certain ways. I was in the first grade one time. It was after school. And I remember a number of my classmates were beating up on, maybe in today's terminology, bullied. Another one of the classmates, less popular than the others. And I remember jumping into the mix of that fight. I remember that some time ago as I reviewed my life. And that spoke out to me. Did I know that that's kind of what I'd be playing out for the next 50-some years of my life? Another event took place that I think gives me great direction. In the summer of 1976, I went looking for a job. I graduated from law school. I'd taken the bar. And I hoped I'd passed it, but the results were not in yet. I was scrubbing toilets, working at 7-Eleven, doing various things, trying to provide some resources to the family. I went looking for a job, and I walked into the newly formed Utah County Public Defender's Office. Mike Essman was there. Mike was the office. Mike was the attorney. He was the whole department by himself. Mike, fortunately or unfortunately for him, hired me, and I went to work. Within weeks, I was doing some research, but I would be sent down on to interview some clients. And maybe some of you remember this gentleman, maybe some of you don't. His name was Gary Gilmore. And I'd go down and speak with Gary Gilmore. And there were some exchanges between us, and I found out even in maybe the most the people who may be looked upon with so much disfavor in the community could have some virtue. I passed the bar, another mistake by the Utah State Board, but I passed the bar and I got a job as the second lawyer in the Sept County Public Defender's Office. I think within weeks, Mike handed me my first case. I was naive. I was young. I had no idea what I was doing. But I thought I was hot. And I walked into that case, and it was named Bradley Crook. What a great name for my first career case. Bradley had been charged with some burglary and theft, and I stood in there, and I don't remember an opening I made. I don't remember any cross-examination I made. I remember nothing about that case, except Judge Sorensen, who is about as decent as close to the middle judges I think this state has ever faced, looked to me at the close of the state's case and said, "Counsel, you have a motion." I thought it was a multiple choice test. I said, "Dismissal?" And he said, "Granted." I walk out thinking I am the greatest of all time. I am amazing, and in hindsight, I knew nothing, and I just sloppy work on my part, just managed to have some break. On the other end of the hall was Mike and another friend of ours, Craig Snyder. And they were trying this Gary Gilmore case. I don't know if everybody remembers Gary Gilmore, but he was the first one in a number of years to face the death penalty. Mike was actually, they lost that case, not to many surprise. Mike was actually discharged, and we like to tease he and Craig about the fact that Gary Gilmore fired him. He would rather face the death penalty than have Mike represent. Not actually factually accurate, but we tease a lot about that. I am so grateful that I had Mike to mentor me Josh may be his first fan, but there's a context there. I may be the biggest fan of Mike. He taught me how to try cases, how to win cases. Do you realize when we started that first office, and Mike may forget this, we actually kept statistics on the wins, the jury trials. Mike was kicking them off at about 66% acquittals. That's in Utah County, and he was fighting through it. He talks about the case of the Kilpack where we tried 9. That's not much my doing that I got the acquittal on that case. We thought we had acquittals coming forward, but Mike gave me the easier part of the case. And he took off the hardest and more difficult part of the case. And if he would have my side of it, I'm sure the guy would have been acquitted as well. And Jeanette would have probably been in more difficult hands than she was in this. But I am so thankful, as I mentioned, Joseph Campbell recounting his life, that I had certain events in my life that pushed me in certain directions. Being a criminal defense lawyer is something I take pride in. Mike says that I haven't burned out yet. Well, I haven't. Neither is he. There's not much more of a pit bull out there than him. The son may be tagging along on that tradition pretty well. But Mike has been a great example. He's taught me how to try cases, and probably in the last decade, he's taught me how to try bigger cases. Casey mentioned the white collar one, mostly that's his doing, and I was just fortunate to be tagging along with him. And I've been such a beneficiary of his efforts and his contributions. A number of years ago, he got this award, and I'm so happy about that. I just appreciate him. One of the things, and I'll shut up here in just a minute. One of the things that just kept me going in the direction, because this is tough sometimes. We go with prosecutors, and we get turned down all the time. The trial judges, they're not on our side. It's a fight every day. Sometimes I think the only turn or advantage we have is to sell it to a jury. And we've done pretty well. Utah County actually has kind of a bad rap in certain fashion for having difficult jurors down there. But if you look at the county public defender's office, you may not know this and you may not believe it. They're kicking off an acquittal rate close or above what Mike's was back in the 70s. They do an excellent job. And so you find people who are believers in what we do. And I like to think you measure the quality of a person based upon the value that they can give to another individual. And if you give value to the people who have higher status in our society, therein lies a judgment, more about you than them. But if you can find a way to give value to people who are disregarded, tossed aside in our communities, accused of maybe most despicable, most absurd, and maybe self-repulsive acts you can think of, and you can find that there is value in those people, that can keep the fire alive. There's one other advantage I've had. I've kind of personalized what I've done for a living. I don't like the idea that police maybe take advantage of certain situations and judges look down upon certain people. And I've always tried to personalize it, that what if that was me? And then it became a greater anthem to me over time as I had children. Because then I started thinking about, what if the police did this to my children? What if the courts did this to my children? And we've all been in front of the trial judges. We've seen the abuses of the police. We've seen the abuses of the judges. And you've been probably in the appellate courts, and you see how disinterested sometimes they are in just the quality of some person's life that's unfortunately accused of a crime. I tried a case a while ago. It was with Mike. I thought it needed a little bit more emotional volume. And so I decided to raise the volume up on an emotional level. And I was able to do that by thinking of my little granddaughter back there. Cute thing, best thing in the world. And I also think of my grandson who's standing back there. And I think of my other 4 grandchildren. And I'd like to think what our efforts leave this world in a better spot than we entered it. If we stand up, if we put resistance forward, and we assert the rights of others, I think that has an advantage to my grandkids. So that's what I've not heard. But thank you. I appreciate this very much.